Quiet Nights in History, Episode 1. A Night in Ancient Rome. The Baker's Story. The moon hung low over the sprawling city of Rome, casting a soft silver glow across terracotta rooftops and narrow cobbled streets. The city was cloaked in a gentle silence, as most of its inhabitants were deep in sleep. Only the faintest sounds of the night traveled through the cool air. A distant dog's bark, the occasional creak of a wooden cartwheel, and the soft rustle of olive leaves swaying in a light breeze. In a quiet lane tucked away from the grand temples and bustling forum, a modest bakery glowed with warm orange light. Inside, Lucius, a skilled baker, moved carefully through the small room, his hands dusted with white flour. The scent of yeast and fresh dough filled the air, comforting and steady. Lucius had risen hours ago, long before the first light of dawn. His task was to prepare the bread that would nourish the city as it woke. His father had been a baker before him, and his father's father before that. This was a family tradition as old as the city itself. He worked slowly, kneading the dough with gentle pressure, folding it over again and again. The clay oven in the corner crackled softly, its heat warming the room just enough to keep the dough rising steadily. Lucius's wooden paddle rested beside it, ready for the moment he would slide the loaves into the fire. Outside, the silence was profound. The streets of Rome, usually crowded with merchants, senators, and citizens, now lay empty and still. Shadows stretched long across stone walls, and the stars sparkled faintly above the rooftops. Lucius paused, listening to the quiet. He could hear the faint murmur of the Tiber River flowing nearby, a constant presence beneath the city's stone and marble. The river had witnessed centuries of Rome's rise, from a humble village to the heart of a great empire. As he worked, the baker's thoughts wandered. He imagined the busy markets that would soon open, the chatter of neighbors greeting each other, and the children running with bundles of bread back to their families. His bread would be part of their mornings, simple, nourishing, and warm. He slid the first batch of loaves carefully into the oven, feeling the satisfying resistance of the heat against the wood. The fire crackled and hissed as the bread began to bake, filling the room with a rich, comforting aroma. Time passed slowly. Outside, the eastern sky began to pale, a soft blue spreading across the horizon. A single rooster crowed in the distance, signaling the approach of a new day. Somewhere far off, the sound of a cart rolling over cobblestones broke the stillness. Lucius took a moment to rest, wiping sweat from his brow. He looked up through the small window above the oven, watching the first faint rays of sunlight touch the marble columns of the forum. The city was waking. Slowly, other shops began to light their lamps. A butcher's stall was set up nearby, and the smell of fresh meat mingled with the baker's warm bread. The streets filled with the sounds of greetings, footsteps, and the clatter of carts. Lucius continued his work, placing the golden loaves on wooden shelves, their crusts crisp and warm to the touch. The bakery's door opened and closed as neighbors arrived to collect their bread, exchanging kind words and smiles. Though the city outside was alive with activity, inside the bakery the atmosphere remained calm, steady, and warm. The flickering firelight danced on the walls, casting soft shadows that seemed to tell stories of their own. As the sun climbed higher, the streets filled with the voices of senators debating in the forum, children playing near the fountains, and merchants hawking their goods. Yet Lucius remained focused on his craft, a humble but essential part of the city's heartbeat. When the last loaf was sold, he finally stepped outside. The air was now bright and warm, filled with the sounds of life and the scent of fresh bread. He paused for a moment, taking in the scene, the bustling city, the towering temples, and the endless energy that made Rome great. And as the day wore on, the baker knew that soon the city would sleep again, and his work would begin anew. Until then, the warmth of the oven and the scent of bread would linger in the air, a quiet reminder of the simple moments that hold a great empire together. May this calm story of a single night in ancient Rome bring you peace and gentle rest.